Well, then compete. You're not a competitor if you got to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and these teams in basketball, it's different. You want to, you can actually go and build your team from the portal. Arkansas did it. Lots of teams have done it. But if you look, the teams that are still having the most success, the Floridas, the Auburns, the Tennessees, the Dukes, they're still recruiting. Okay.
Right.
And that's the same for football too. The teams that are having the most success, that are winning the most games, are not just going and building their whole team through the portal. They're getting their guys, they're recruiting these kids out of high school, they're developing them, they're putting them on the field when they're ready. And then if guys aren't ready, or if they're, got injuries at a position, or they just don't have enough bodies, then you go and you supplement your team. I mean, look at the Buckeyes who won the national championship this year. They didn't go build their team through the portal. Yeah, they went and got Will Howard, but that was because Kyle McCord left and went to Syracuse, so they didn't have a quarterback that was ready. They had a couple of freshmen, but they didn't have anybody that had any experience. So they went and got somebody that had experience and then had them compete with the young guys. And then they added Caleb Downs, who, turned out to be a big, piece for them. And pretty much, that was it. So those were the main guys that the national championship team added. Was those guys. I mean, they also got Quinshon Judkins, who turned out to be important for them, but he was just kind of a depth piece at running back who, ended up outperforming what they thought he would. But that's what you want to do. That's how you really want to use this portal thing. You want to go and get guys that fit your team, that fit your culture, that have talent, that have production, and that can beef up positions that you're lacking depth at.
Right. All right, let's get to the Final Four. We're going to start out tomorrow. Florida Auburn, the SEC powerhouse, the SEC championship game part 2. You got to look at, Auburn dominated most of the year. Florida was the team at the end that everybody was talking about. I think Florida, UConn did them a great favor. I said it that week, gave them that wake-up call. And I really think Florida is going to be able to take it to them. One thing I saw in the paper, you know more about this than me, the Florida assistant coach used to be an assistant coach for Bruce Pearl.
That is correct. And, everybody's kind of forgotten how before the season began, Florida's coach was under investigation for inappropriate contact with co-eds. He was calling some of these girls on campus. He was texting them pictures of himself. You can use your imagination there. He was accused of stalking some of these young girls. And, the police did an investigation. The university did an investigation. Well, it's funny. The university let the police finish first. And after they didn't press any charges, well, then the university came out with a statement that, they found some behavior that was inappropriate, but nothing that would lead them to terminate him. If that guy was 500, he would have gotten fired immediately. But the only reason he's still coaching there is because he's winning. And, I think it's kind of disgusting, honestly.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, how much – he's the basketball coach. I mean, it's not like he's a professor. How many times does he see these girls? He wouldn't, I don't know.
Exactly. He's married and has kids and is, just a little bit younger than me. He shouldn't be chasing college girls, and he certainly shouldn't be showing up at their dorms and shit. It's disgusting. And as much as I hate Auburn, I kind of want Auburn to win.
I mean, it's kind of like, that's kind of, you have to go out of your way to meet these girls.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're, like I said, it's not like he's a teacher sitting there looking at a girl, 3 times a week and going, well, maybe for a good grade, what the hell? But that's neither here nor there. How about Duke against Houston?
Houston is a good team, and they're really good defensively. This is a team that, they beat a solid Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee was number 1 for a good portion of the season, Joe. And, had a really, really good year and had these seniors that have been here for 4 or 5 years, Jemai Mashak, Zakai Ziegler and company. Those guys have played here for a long time. And, Houston made them look really bad in the first half. I mean, part of it was they couldn't make a shot, but you have to give Houston some credit for that, for their defense. That being said, who on Houston's team scares you offensively? Who is it?
Nobody really
makes you nervous.
I mean, there's nobody up there with Flag in Flag's area code or zip code or whatever you want to call it.
Well, yeah, so and the thing with Flag is Flag's not a guy that, I mean, he scored 30 a few times, but Flag's not a guy that takes volume shots. Flag is actually more of a LeBron type guy in that he's a facilitator. They get the ball in his hands and he makes things happen. He'll drive to the goal. If they collapse, he kicks it out or dishes it to a guy cutting to the basket. He's a big time facilitator guy, but Duke has dudes all over that can score. Tyrese Proctor has been a machine shooting 3-pointers and has a good mid-range game. Sion James has a really good mid-range game and is improved as a shooter. Con Knipple can get his own shot. He can work without the ball. They've got plenty of, I mean, talk about Isaiah Evans. I mean, he is probably on any of these other teams in this entire tournament. Isaiah Evans would be starting, and he comes off the bench for Duke. So they've got a lot of options scoring wise, but Cooper Flagg's the guy that brings it all together. He's the guy that does the dirty work, gets the rebounds, blocks the shots, has the effort plays. And then really, when they need a play, they get him the ball, and he may not necessarily be the one that scores, but he finds the guy that's open.
All right. Well, before we give our picks, let's give our overall view of the NCAA tournament, which is usually one of the great tournaments of all time. I've heard some criticism. It's a little flat. We didn't have the Cinderella story. We didn't have that the Chicago Loyola or the St. Peter's or one of those. The common fan gets behind. But then again, when we have something like that, we get a complaint because usually as it gets nearer and nearer, they get blown out in their last game. And you're like, well, it would have been so much better if they didn't pull that upset because we would have had a better team here and a better game. So here it looks like they got it right this year. The NCAA picked the right teams to be number one in every area. They all got through. What do you have to say to the people? Because I mean, you're an honest man. The people who are sitting there and saying that I hear the ratings were up, so I don't see how you can say it was a flat tournament.
People just want to complain. That's all it is anymore. People want to complain. When the number one seeds lose, they're like, oh, all the good teams are gone. This isn't even watchable. And then when all the number one seeds win, they're like, there's no more Cinderella. The NIL and the transfer portal have ruined the Cinderella. Well, no, I mean, there's still upsets. There were still some teams that had no business beating these Power 5 teams that did. In the first couple of rounds. And that's what I really enjoy is watching teams, upset, teams that have a lot better players on them. And that still happens. But this year, I mean, can we give it a couple of years and see if that's actually true? I think this year there just was 4 teams that were head and shoulders above. Florida, Auburn, you can even throw Tennessee in there. I know they didn't do as well towards the end of the year, but during the middle of the year, they were number one for a long period of time. Duke, and even Houston, these teams, collectively lost, between 3 and 7 games maximum between the 5 of them. Those were the 5 best teams. And, we could say probably towards the end of the year, the 4 best teams were the ones they ranked number 1, and they're just better than everybody else. They've got better players. They have all good coaches. I know none of these guys has won a title, but, Golden is still relatively a young guy. John Shire is in his 3rd season. Bruce Pearl has been there. He's been to the Final Four. He's been to the Elite 8 a bunch of times. He's just never won it all. And then Calvin Sampson, if he didn't have a freaking 20-year show cause, he probably would have won a championship because, he had some great teams at Indiana. He had some really good teams at Oklahoma and made the Final Four there. And then he's had Houston competitive. So there's 4 really, really good coaches, and they've got 4 really good rosters. And that's why these teams are here. So I think it's been a great tournament. I think it's been fun to watch. I think there's been some really good players. When you can complain about the one and dones, you can complain about the transfer portal, you can do whatever you want. The fact is, because these guys are getting paid, some of these dudes that probably wouldn't have played in college basketball are playing, and some of these guys that probably would have played only maybe 1 or 2 years are staying longer. And, I think it's a good product, and I enjoyed watching it. The ratings were up, so other people watched it too. And I think we're going to have a good Final Four.
Well, I think I agree with that. The biggest product or the NIL which helped the most is keeping these guys around, because I was so sick of seeing these guys go one and done and then go into the NBA, and they were so unprepared. You were like 30 games in NCAA in freshman year does not compare to 82 regular season games in the NBA against grown men. It's just not the right thing. It didn't work out.
Well, it was ruining these guys' careers too, because they would go and they would, get drafted in the late first round or the second round. They would go on a team. They wouldn't be ready. They wouldn't be able to stay up in the league. They would go to the G League, and then they would just get passed over by guys that were coming in that were ready. And then they found themselves over in Europe or coaching high school basketball. And I don't think that was good for anybody.
Well, look at Bronny. Who's talking about Bronny anymore? Nowhere. No one. And if anybody had every benefit going for him, between the fact of his genes and the fact of the matter is he could get the best coaching in the world just from the time he could run around. And, it's you either have it or you don't. And he came out too early for sure. So let's make our picks for the weekend. You go ahead, yours first.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Duke over Houston, and I'm gonna take Florida over Auburn, and the reason is because I think Florida's guards are better than Auburn's guards. That's why. I mean, that in the tournaments,
it's all guard play.
It's guard play, man. It just really, really matters. And you say, well, Duke's, his Cooper Flagg's a power forward. Well, yeah, he is, but he brings the ball up the court. So, it's guard play. He's basically a guard. And, who has the better guards? And Florida has one of the best guard groups in the country. They usually play 3 at a time. And all of them are really, really good players. And Clayton is the best. And when they need a bucket, by God, he gets it. So I'm gonna go Florida, and I'm gonna go Duke.
Yeah, I'm going to go Florida and Duke in the final as well. I'm going to pick Florida just to be different, and we'll see who's right next week. You got a show coming up this Sunday?
Potentially, we did have a great show as I mentioned to you last week. We had former Ohio State wide receiver D. Miller on the show. He was opposite David Boston back in '96 and '97. Played with Orlando Pace and Joe Germain and Stanley Jackson and Pepe Pearson and Eddie George and all those guys. And it was probably the best show we've ever done. D is a really smart guy. He knows a lot about football, and he was a great guest. And we're working on getting B. Moses, the Buckeye insider, to come in and talk about spring ball. We want to get into, who is going to win the quarterback job in Columbus. Is it going to be the young kid, Julian Sayin? Is it going to be Tavian St. Clair? Who's going to win it? And, how are they going to replace 8-9 starters on defense? I mean, that's going to be the big thing. I know they reload every year, but it's something to watch as far as what they're going to do, replacing that defense. And then, obviously we want to talk a little bit about the Wolverines and Underwood. I think he's going to start right away. You don't pay a kid $12 million
to come to your college, sit on the bench. Okay, $12 million. I mean, that's more than a backup quarterback makes in the NFL.
It's just if you said that to anybody 12 years or 10 years ago, they'd sit there and go, what?
$12 million. How sad is it, though? I mean, this is a team that's a year removed from winning the national championship, and they got to pay $12 million to get a kid from Detroit to come to Ann Arbor. It's 30 minutes away. It's weird to me. The whole, the optics of this is just not good, I don't think, for them. And there's gonna be a lot of pressure on this kid to come in and succeed. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of pressure on whoever starts at Ohio State as well. But none of them are making 12 mil.
Yeah, well, I was reading that Marcus Freeman is really leaning heavily to giving Angeli a really good chance to take over the starting job at Notre Dame, which I am all for. The kid's been there. He's done it. He's shown flashes when he's been in there of what he can do, including that bowl game victory.
What about the Penn State game? I mean, he got thrown out there cold and led them right down and threw a touchdown. And I was like, leave him in there. But, I understand why they went back to Leonard and all that. Leonard's a competitor, and he certainly proved to me that he was better than I gave him credit for. But I liked Angeli better. And I think he's a better quarterback in the long term. And I hope he does get to start.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said. And I understand. You have a chance to get a top level quarterback that can come in and make you competitive right away, and it worked out for them too. But it worked out well for them this year. But when they went out and got Sam Hartman, not so much.
Right.
So it's catch as catch can. And I you know it better than me because you played college football at a different time. But the fact of the matter is it's got to do something for you when you have a kid that's been there like Angeli, who's now he's been there. I think he's 4 years, but he's technically a junior.
Yes,
because he's redshirted. But the friendships he's made, the guys he's close to on the team, I'm sure they're behind him 100%, and they want to see him get a fair shot.
I think they trust him. I think they trust him. I think they like him. I think they believe in him. And I think unless this freshman kid is just head and shoulders above him, I think you have to put him out there first.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, my friend, that was a nice picture of you and Livy the other night at your dance.
Yeah, man, daddy-daughter dance. I was cutting a rug out there, making it happen.
There you go.
The white man overbite. But no, it was a good time, and I'm cherishing these moments, man. They're great. The kids, everybody always says like, "Oh, kids grow up so fast," and I'm always like, "Why do people say that?" Well, then I had a kid, and feels like we took her home from the hospital 6 months ago, and she's gonna be 7 in 2 weeks. So it's crazy.
But you still got a good little girl down there that loves her daddy. So
yep.
All right, my friend. Have a great night and a great weekend. We'll talk next week. Everybody tuned in, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week.
Sounds good, buddy.